Hey everyone, it's Ethan or Miss back again for another video today, and welcome back to the channel, guys. We're here again for yet another video. Today we're going to be talking about CDL's Week 2 in Major 4. Of course, here are my results for my predictions. I actually had a very solid week. Unfortunately, we had 3 upsets, and you know what? Yeah, I got those 3 upsets wrong. If they had went the way that most people probably expected them to, then I would have gone flawless on the weekend. But yeah, 3 upsets. The Breach upset the Surge, Subliners also upset the Surge, and the Gorillas upset FaZe, which we'll talk about here momentarily. But of course, the absolute priority right now is talking about the standings. It is a incredibly close race right now. Also, last Friday, I believe it was, I didn't get to make a video on it, but Atlanta FaZe and Optic Texas have clinched for the playoffs, which is pretty expected. Obviously, you knew they were going to be there, and chances are they're going to be seeds 1 and 2 heading into the playoffs / champs. And I'd say at this rate, Seattle and London have also clinched. I don't know for sure. I tweeted out last night asking if anyone knew if Seattle or London had actually clinched yet, but I don't think anyone replied to me. Let me go take a look really quickly. I'm just checking on my phone because I believe, no one responded. So I'm not too sure if they have clinched a spot yet or not, but I'd like to think they're just about safe. Now those teams that aren't as safe are Boston and Toronto. I'd say there's still a very high chance that they make it, but there's also a chance that they don't. Of course, then the Gorillas, the Thieves, the Rocker, the Mutineers, and the Subliners, who I cannot believe we're still talking about. There is still the possibility of the Subliners making it to champs. You know what? Yesterday, when the Subliners won against, was it Optic, I believe? Is that who it was? Optic yesterday, I think it was, right? Yes. When the Subliners beat Optic yesterday, Krim had an interview with Nameless and Veli, and of course, Krim interview, very entertaining, but you know what? They said that this could be the first time ever since Champs has been a thing that Crimsix won't be competing at Champs if they miss. So that's insane, first of all. But one of my best friends, he's a New York fan, so him and I were going through scenarios last night on how the Subliners can actually make it into the postseason. And I mean, they need a lot of things to go their way, but like, let's take a look at this. So of course, Paris plays Florida and Minnesota next week. Honestly, you just need them to clutch up in one of those series, which will put you in a really good spot. In an ideal world, what happens is we go through Friday. London, Atlanta don't matter for New York, but Paris, Florida, Minnesota, and Seattle do matter. So Paris ideally would beat Florida. We'll say that. So I feel like that's honestly not too, like, I don't feel like that's impossible. I feel like it's a higher chance of Paris beating Florida than Minnesota, but you never know. And then ideally Seattle beating Minnesota. So then that puts Florida still at 120. That puts Rocker at 120 as well. So they don't change. Then you go on to Saturday. Again, very important. Minnesota versus Paris. You would imagine Minnesota wins that, and we'll say Minnesota does win that. So that puts them up to 130. And then a huge match between Florida and LAT. You need Florida to beat LAT here. Like, absolutely. So then Florida goes up to 130, but then LAT doesn't go up to 150. So then the Subliners will be at 110 still, while Florida and Minnesota will be at 130. So obviously all 3 of those teams will still be out of the playoffs, but then you go on to Sunday. Absolutely, of course, the most important match. The Subliners need to beat the Thieves. And for the Subliners to beat the Thieves, if they do that, they'll be at 120 points. So say if everything happened the way I just explained it, the Thieves will be at 140 points, the Rocker 130, the Mutineers 130, and the Subliners 120. Now, I didn't talk about the Gorillas. I would imagine the Gorillas lose to the Ravens, so they stay at 135. So then that means Subliners only need 20 points, well, ideally 30 points, to make it into the postseason. Because I mean, if the Subliners beat LAT, they're going to have a record of 12-13. They're obviously going to be starting as the number 1 seed, going 5-0, which is major for them because then you look at the points. They just need to clinch 5th place. Ideally, if they can get 4th place, Subliners make the playoffs, but a lot needs to go in their favor. Of course, this video has basically just been about the Subliners right now because I feel like that's the most important story right now. Now, taking a look at this upcoming week's matches, of course, we got some interesting ones. Again, very important matches for Florida and Minnesota this week. They're still not in the playoff bubble. It's very possible that they could miss out, which would be stunning, really, especially because Florida and Minnesota both have had one really good event this year. Seattle, I'd say again, are just about safe to make the postseason, but then you've got a very important match between Toronto and Boston. Of course, Boston, well, last week, Toronto was up in 4th, and then, of course, the Ravens and Breach have won some games, while Toronto has not, so Toronto now down in 6th place. I really need Toronto to win that match because, they play Texas and they play Boston this week, so they need to at least go 1-1 to get to 160 points, because if they stay at 150 points, they're in very, very dangerous territory, so I need them. I really need them to win here. But of course, the most important matches of the week, I'd say right now, are Paris and Florida, Minnesota and Seattle, Minnesota and Paris, Toronto and Boston, absolutely, Florida and LAT, absolutely, London and LAG, absolutely, and New York and LAT, absolutely. Now, I haven't really gone through it, but let's take a look at last week. So, of course, Atlanta low-key destroyed Toronto last week, unfortunately. Ravens look incredible this past week. They destroyed Minnesota, and they destroyed Florida. The Breach, again, an upset over the Surge. Surge did not look that great this week, and again, Subliners upset the Surge. Paris, I had it going in 5. It went in 4. Optic really hasn't been looking that great. Of course, I didn't know Illy was going to be back at the time of recording my predictions video for last week, but it didn't look that great right now. But of course, it's the first week back with Illy. I'm sure it's only going to get better, of course, right? So then we go to Subliners and Surge. Again, a big upset from the Subliners. They're staying alive, up to 4-0 right now, so that's very, very good. Then Gorillas and FaZe, of course, an upset. I had it 3-1 for FaZe, went 3-1 Gorillas. Breach beat the Gorillas. The Breach go really big this week, going 2-0. The Thieves, of course, destroying the Legion, and it looks like Temp might have benched himself. Looks like he may be done for the season, of course. I feel so bad for Temp. Temp is one of my favorite players in the league, and he's been through every single one of these series. He's unfortunately 2-20 on the year, which I feel horrible about. They've only won 25 maps, which is incredibly sad, and I feel so bad for him. But continuing on, of course, Subliners and Texas to finish out the day, or finish out the weekend, I guess. Subliners, again, with the upset, although they do look incredible. I'd say the top 3 teams in the league right now are, honestly, I'd probably give it to Subliners or Ravens at 1, and then one of them could be 2, and then probably Atlanta or LAT at 3. So those are probably the top 4 right now. Boston, although definitely could be in that conversation right now as well. Some very interesting things here. Now, I do want to take a look at, where is it? I think it's CDL Esports Wiki. I want to see if the standings are up here. Yes, they are. Okay, so this is exactly what I wanted to see. So, right now, Toronto will be starting in losers, and Optic, yeah, see, that's massive. Of course, Subliners are just about guaranteed to be number 1 seed, I would say. If you take a look again at the series, it's very possible London goes 1-1 this week. It's very possible they go 2-0 this week. I'd be stunned if they went 0-2. And as for the Subliners, Yeah, I mean, it's very possible that they beat the Thieves. So, yeah, very interesting. So, of course, Subliners only have one match. Ravens have two. Breach have one. LAT have two. FaZe has two. Mutineers have two. Seattle has two. Minnesota has two. Toronto has two. LAG has one. Texas has one. And Paris has one. So, again, it's very possible that these bottom three teams are starting in losers no matter what. And I'm hoping, and what I think is pretty likely is Florida going down to losers and Toronto moving up to winners. I feel like that's the most likely situation here. I hope Toronto starts in winners because they kind of need to. Again, they aren't like guaranteed to make the postseason right now. They're in a much better spot than someone like the LA Gorillas, but still, they're only 15 points above the Gorillas. So I need them to at least win one of their matches this weekend, whether it be, I mean, ideally it would be against the Breach, because that's way more important because it's a head-to-head matchup, and then they'll be tied in the standings, but it depends on if the Breach also win their other series. Wait, no, sorry, that's their only series of the week. Yeah, so that would be massive. That would be massive. Of course, that still puts Breach in winners way above Toronto, but yeah, I'm intrigued to see how everything pans out this week. Like I said, of course, there's a very high chance that Paris goes 0-5 again. It's been 100 days since they've last won a match, which is very, very sad, unfortunately for them. I don't know what's going to happen. Of course, there's so much to go through. I'm really hoping Paris can clutch up and beat either Florida or Minnesota in both of their matches or just one of their matches, ideally, for New York's sake, so New York can make it to the postseason. But we shall see. I mean, of course, right now I'm rooting for Toronto and New York the most. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'd say it's just about a guarantee that Seattle and London are in the postseason right now. I can't really imagine a scenario like how they would lose out right now. If the Breach win, they get to 170. If everyone wins their matches, Breach go 170, Toronto go 170, Thieves go 160, I think, right? Yes. And then LAG go 145. And then the Rocker would have to go 140. Mutineers would go 140. Still, I don't see the Seattle Surge or the London Royal Ravens missing out. So I would say those two teams are just about confirmed to be in the postseason as well, which means we have probably our top four seeds right now. But we'll see how the event goes. But of course, I'd like to think Atlanta, Texas, Seattle, and London have clinched. Boston and Toronto, I would imagine, are next to clinch. Boston perhaps a little more likely than Toronto, but we shall see. Of course, any of these bottom four teams are still in scarce territory. I'm intrigued to see how things go. So, sorry guys, this is a really long video. I didn't expect to be talking for this long, but yeah, thank you guys all so much for watching. Of course, let me know what you think is going to happen this week. Of course, I'll talk about my predictions later this week. Let me know if you think New York's going to clutch up, if you think they are going to make the postseason. Again, fingers crossed. I hope they do. So, thank you guys all so much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.